I have never thought of a personal theme song up until now. If I had to pick one, it would be Handel's Messiah. In recent days, I have experienced the lowest of lows and the highest of highs. As part of my receiving health care from the Veterans Administration, I get tested for COVID 19 prior to any examination. I've been coming up negative, which is certainly a good thing. That changed on February the 22nd when I went to the Bronx VA facility to get tested for a February 25th follow-up exam. At about 1:30, I did the swab of both nostrils and went home. At 3 p.m., my world changed. The VA called and stated the drastic words, "You have tested positive." Calmly, but in shock, I informed Joanne. Immediately, we took precautions. In our small apartment, we would wear masks, stay away from each other. I would sleep in the living room. I would not go outside. Joanne would be doing the chores that I had been doing since she is slowly recovering from her car accident of last year. Joanne immediately made an appointment to get tested. She was able to score one for the next day at the CVS in Armonk. This has all been a learning experience. The test at CVS is called PCR. Results are promised within 2 to 4 days. It is supposedly more thorough than the quick test. Anyway, in 2 days, she was notified that she was negative. A ray of light and hope. The New York State contact tracing people called and gave instructions about isolation. Use separate bathrooms and bedrooms. Have your neighbors help. Have them deliver meals, etc. All are quite impossible. Joanne contacted the county, and fortunately they were able to provide a room at the Days Inn in Elmsford. I told Joanne I wanted to do everything possible to get through this. So on the 26th of February, I was to register at the Days Inn. Prior to my first night at being separated from Joanne, I had an appointment to the CVS here in Bedford Hills to get tested with the more detailed results. My stay in the room has certainly been a teachable moment. The rules were many. You were completely confined in the room. 3 meals were at separate times. A knock on the door, you picked up the meal. The food was very decent, but not what I'm used to. Joanne would come every day and bring me a precious container of coffee, healthy snacks, and clean clothes. No contact. Knock on the door, I picked the gifts up and retreated. I used a lot of coping methods, a lot of pacing. Yoga exercises that I learned at the Katona Library. Phone calls from friends and family. Television, news, MSNBC, CNN, Bloomberg, channels 2, 4, and 7, and above all, Turner Classic Movies. And above all, a lot of praying. Monday, 4 days after the start of isolation, Joanne called. CVS says you're negative. A day of light and hope. Since this ordeal had begun, the VA reached out to me and assigned me a nurse, Angel, to work with via telehealth. Twice a day I took my temperature, blood pressure, and measurement with a finger pulse oximeter. There were no symptoms, and everything was within acceptable parameters. When I told her about the great negative results, Andrea gave me the impression that the quick test indeed can be a false test positive. This was backed up with conversations with friends. Andrea closed the case as far as the VA was concerned. I asked Joanne to make a copy of the negative report to show the days in. Their response was that my confinement was for a 2-week commitment. A very dark cloud enveloped my room. I tried to call contact tracing and discovered it was a one-way street. They contact you, period. But at this point, I was resolved to see things through. On Thursday, 7 days into the ordeal, TCM was showing a 1940s film starring the comedian Jimmy Durante with the very prominent nose. It was called A Music for the Millions. Through the trials of this film, a Hollywood miracle occurred and was celebrated at the end by a full orchestra and chorus performing Handel's Messiah. Now, another miracle occurred shortly. Contact tracing got a hold of Joanne and said we have a release, a copy to the days in, and I was free. That night, I was home in Bedford Hills, and the shack never looked more beautiful. It was wonderful to be back with my loving Joanne and our 2 cats, Smokey and Teddy Bear. I made a full pot of coffee, the way I like it, to celebrate. It was certainly a learning experience, that life will continually present challenges. My current one is to keep the promises I made to the good Lord.